Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connect Africa. At this hour, which is quite late, I am here to share with you my reflection on yesterday's President Museveni and President Al-Sisi's exchange of briefing during their bilateral meeting in Cairo, and I found it really quite interesting. Now Museveni at this age is now visiting Cairo because he was invited by the Egyptian government for a bilateral meeting, which is to talk about most of it about investments for Egyptians to invest in Uganda and vice versa as well, and for Egyptians also to buy products from Uganda. Well, President Yoweri Museveni was caught by surprise as President El-Sisi has taken the opportunity during the press briefing completely to go off topic and keep on threatening the Nile Basin countries, particularly Ethiopia. I assume that you all are familiar with what is going on, the tension or the conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt because of Nile River or the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that Ethiopia is building in its own territory on the highlands of Ethiopia. Now, I'm assuming you have a background. So before I go ahead and share their briefing, just part of it, which, I find it interesting, I will give you a quick background. So Ethiopia is building this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam from 2011, and Egypt has been consistently adamant and, taking us, I say us because I'm an Ethiopian, taking Ethiopia to all over the place in the world, like to the Arab League, to the United Nations, also United Nations Security Council, to Europe, to the United States particularly, has been knocking doors so that, these governments will halt this construction of the dam. Well, let me tell you, Nile is called Nile because of the contribution from the White Nile, which originates from Uganda, and the Blue Nile, which originates from Ethiopia. And 86% of this water comes from Ethiopia, and the rest 14% comes from Uganda, from Lake Victoria, they call it. So the White Nile is called, and then they meet both these blue and white Niles, they meet in Khartoum, and then from then going to upstream and downstream countries, taking the name Nile. So Ethiopia is purely building this dam for a development project to generate electricity. Now, let's talk about what they said during their meeting. Okay, I'm going to share with you. Look, it was about totally a 23-minute briefing. Each of them has taken the time somehow equally 11 minutes, I think, the Museveni, and then the rest 12 minutes by President El-Sisi. Now, just to give you, an understanding, Museveni talked about, he didn't really focus on the Nile, but he sees that, I think, usually what happens is leaders behind, the closed door, what they do is they talk about and then they come and share what they want to share to the public. So he kind of understand what the interest of the Egyptian government is to focus on Nile and to bash Ethiopia as they always do it. So Museveni actually told the truth and defended Africa, or the Nile Basin countries, which is, we can call it Africa, very nicely, diplomatically, in a language that hopefully Egypt can understand. Now, let me share this video with you. Of course, Museveni, talked about the historical relation between the two countries, and and the like. Yeah. Just go away.
And by talking to others, broaden the discussion, I think historical rights
Yeah.
and Egypt's approach in dealing with were of important issues back then. As for the issue of the River Nile, I discussed with His Excellency the President this matter, and we said that maybe we need to find a different approach to deal with it. Egypt has historical rights, and Egypt's approach in dealing with this matter is based on the historical rights and the agreements that were signed at the time of the British colonization. And the others say, what about us? So, if we broaden the discussion, I think we would be able to find a solution. And by talking to others, we can say that the global needs of all the countries in the Nile Basin are for achieving prosperity for everyone first. And within this prosperity, we need the electricity to be provided to all countries, irrigation in all countries.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we need water. So, if we would put this into consideration in documents, regardless of the other approaches that would be adopted, we can look for the scientific means to achieve that. And by that, the problem won't be as big as it seems today. It is related to the approach of dealing with the matter.
So let me stop it there, because Museveni's, the important thing is that President Museveni, he believes that, the solution is to use a scientific approach, not that Egypt hanging to that colonial era agreement, because that will not take us any further, because that time has passed and countries need to develop. And I am not even mentioning that Ethiopia has a right to build its own dam. It's doing it in its own territory. It's using its own natural resource. Egypt has the Aswan High Dam, and that is built without any consultation during the colonial time. It was under the British colony at that time, Egypt, and they haven't consulted to anyone, any of the Nile Basin countries or the Nile riparian states. So Egypt continuously accusing Ethiopia is wrong, and actually it's unacceptable. I'm saying this even in a very tired sense, because we have been fighting back to make Egypt understand. So that time it has passed, and we don't like, for me it really doesn't even matter, because Ethiopia is completing its dam, and in about a month's time or few weeks time it's going to inaugurate it, while fighting diplomatically, and doing trying to do all the talks in the right channel, advising Egypt, it's better to talk to the African Union and using that channel instead of taking us everywhere, because whether it's the US, Europe, or the United Nations, all of them have no business in this matter. And that colonial era agreement is you just have to get over it and wake up from that dream, because it cannot be continued like that. That's unacceptable. And soon it's not only Ethiopia, also other riparian states, the Nile riparian states will also start, when they have the capacity to do so, will start to build dam, because it's important to have energy. Without having your growing your energy sector, you cannot develop, you cannot invite investors, you cannot build infrastructures, you cannot have those manufacturing companies. You're basically telling us, look, you have you have, yes, the resource is yours, but we also have people. We want to use your resource while your people starve. That's basically what Egypt is saying, and that's no more acceptable. And all the African people understand this, and they have been supporting Ethiopia. So I don't know what Egypt is trying. It's just trying to shoot its last chance, because they know that now the dam is going to be inaugurated. Look at it now. For the next speech is, or briefing is, by President El Sisi of Egypt. And out of that 12 minutes, El Sisi, 3/4 of it, like, 9 minutes of his briefing or his speech was focusing on Nile. It was just tiring. And he has, I want to mention, he has really lied by saying, by drawing some kind of statistics, how much billions of cubic meters is reaching to Egypt, and how much of it is, lost to evaporation and in swamp area. So I'm going to invite you his speech just a second, and I am going to reflect also on that.
Dealing with veterinary diseases, in addition to cooperation in the field of energy and insecurity. We intend to continue our cooperation due to the last visit for the head of the popular Ugandan commander, and we agreed on holding annually the military council's meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I shared with
now, up until now, this was the last piece of, the first part of his speech, where he talked about, he just runs through quickly the investment in the areas. They have, I think, signed like 7 MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, in various sectors, including one of them being Egypt to construct the vaccine manufacturing company in Uganda, and also a water management, water, something that has to do with water management for the next 20 years with you, and also to build the dam that's on the border of Kenya and Uganda. Those are the things. Now he's going to talk about the rest of 9 minutes. So far, that was 3 minutes. The rest of the 9 minutes is focusing on Nile. Let's hear it.
President Museveni visions regarding the River Nile, the channel of life for both our countries, and we agreed that the optimum way to deal between the Nile Valley countries should be built on enhancing cooperation to achieve common interest, as well as joint action to protect this vital resource and develop it, as well as taking into consideration the interest of everyone and not to harm anyone according to international law standards. As mentioned by His Excellency President Museveni, with his great wisdom, without protecting the environment of the Nile Basin, we will have nothing to share. Accordingly, I confirm to President Museveni our full support to the efforts of development in Uganda and the rest of the brotherly countries in the Nile Basin, and the fact that we are ready to contribute to financing Ongululu Dam between Uganda and Kenya through the mechanism launched by Egypt to invest in infrastructure projects in the Nile Basin with a preliminary investment of 100 million US dollars. And I would like to announce that we signed today a memorandum of understanding in the field of integrated water resources management to build on the extended cooperation for over 20 years between the two countries to protect the environment of the River Nile and to develop its resources with a total value of 6 million US dollars to emphasize our strong commitment to supporting development in Uganda and the rest of the Nile Basin countries. In this context, I confirmed our confidence in the constructive role played by Uganda to lead the consultation regarding the Nile Basin Initiative to achieve agreement and conformity between the Nile Basin countries for mutual interest. And I heightened the fact that Egypt is against unilateral actions in the Eastern Nile Basin that should be a source for development rather than conflict. And he would be distracted if he thinks that Egypt is going to turn a blind eye to its interests. And we will take all the legal standards and all the legal rules at the international level according to the international law to protect our interests. And let me stop here because this was a lengthy discussion between me and President Museveni due to his wisdom and his long experience, and also due to the importance of this issue we're tackling. In fact, we agreed both that water is a very important issue and development is important as well. And our stance was clear from the beginning. We said that we would never be against the development of our partners and our brothers in the Nile Basin countries. We have no problem with that.
So previously you heard him saying that I hate or emphasize that Egypt is against Egypt is not against is against unilateral actions in the Eastern Nile basins that should be a source for development rather than conflict. So here he is directly referring it to Ethiopia being on the Eastern Nile basin. So he's saying that should be a development, not a source of development, not a conflict. Exactly. Now, LCC, you are contradicting yourself. That's exactly what Ethiopia is saying. It's a development project. I don't know why you are, saying it's a source of. You make it a source of conflict, not Ethiopia. You are dragging us and trying to stop ever since this construction of dam, the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, has been launched. That's from 2011 up until now. It was supposed to be finished thanks to you and your government at that time, and continuously also until now. You have made it possible, for us, for Ethiopia, not to get no help in terms of funding this project. And the United States and Europe, the West, was completely aligning with Egypt. So we have to find our own people to finance it. So the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is financed 100% by its people. But thanks, sometimes challenges are good. There's an opportunity that's coming out from every challenge. So that opportunity was for us to know that we are capable of doing such big projects without necessarily getting no fund from IMF or World Bank, so we have been able to mobilize, especially our leaders, mobilized people, its own citizens from home and the diaspora to support this project. And Ethiopia has been doing so. Everybody from street vendors to investors have contributed for this project. So that is what happened. Now, President El-Sisi talk about somewhere that they are getting only 1,000 600 billion cubic meters. So I'm trying to find that, or let me just continue listening to his.
We have only one problem, that this development we're talking about should not have a negative impact on the share of water that reaches Egypt. And the discussion that we had with the president, and found that he fully understood this view. The president told me that we or you, or should we all be together? I told him, we all together, of course, we are all together. So I told him, then there is no difference between us. He told me, I want to tell you that the volume of water that falls on the Nile basin, be it the White Nile or the Blue Nile, according to the scientific standards, say that 1,600 cubic meters of water fall annually on the two Niles. And this is the part of water that goes to the forests, the swamps, the ponds, part used for agriculture, parts evaporates, and parts go to underground water, and very small volume goes to the white and blue Niles, which is about the 85 million cubic meters we're talking about. So if we say that these 1,600 and the 85, then the 85 is only 4% of this volume of water we're talking about. What does this mean? When I ask for this water and this volume of water to reach Egypt and Sudan so that we can survive because we do not have any other water resource, by saying so, am I against development in the Nile Basin countries, or am I against them benefiting from this water for agriculture or electricity generation? No, of course, and I'm emphasizing this here in front of His Excellency the President and you all. I'm telling the Egyptians that our stance from the beginning was that we said that we are not against development. We did not even talk about share division of this water, because if you talk about fair.
Again, President El Sisi, this is what you do. You are contradicting yourself. If you're not against development, then why do you take this development project to the United Nations Security Council as if this is a security matter? The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam issue being talked in the United Nations Security Council, it makes it the first of its kind, a development project to be talked in the Security Council. So now I'm going to also reflect, to go ahead and expose his lies where he talked about the 1,600 billion cubic meters. Now, I have talked I have been, working on the Pan-African aspect of this project and how it means really not only for the Nile Basin countries, but also the whole of Africa, that Ethiopia's experience can literally be exported to other parts of African countries, and also particularly by the 9 riparian states. And even the African Union can take such a big lesson. I have written articles and also invited guests to discuss issues, people who have written books on this matter. And also, I have analyzed it, brought you my own research with regards to that this dam is actually a Pan-African project, not only Ethiopia's development project. Now, let me tell you about, I asked my friend, or I say my sister from Ethiopia, who is a researcher on this matter, and she more deals with the scientific part of it. So let me just read what she sent me. Look, now there is a lot of water that is lost in, because El Sisi talked about those waters are being lost also to swamps and to swamps, evaporation, and others. So let me just, read what she said. Yes, there is a lot of water that's lost to swamps, evaporation, and that goes into groundwater. But that doesn't matter, because what we need is using what ends up in the river, mostly what ends up in the river. So the records at Dongola, this is a place in Sudan, and Aswan, that is in Egypt, show that the maximum we have seen is 1,871. Actually, no. So what we have seen since 1871 is 113 billion cubic meter. Even considering water that goes into groundwater and is lost to evaporation, the total renewable water resource in the Nile Basin is around 285 billion cubic meters. That's as per her research, after assessing all other sources. How did she arrive on this matter? Is that, look, there are papers who say it's between 260 and 300 billion cubic meter, but what arrives, the highest of it is so far 113 billion cubic meters. So basically, he is, exaggerating, and we don't know from where he's bringing this number of 1,600 billion cubic meter. Now, El-Sisi's line of thinking it's misleading. It's also dangerous. It makes people think as if little water is reaching Egypt. Now, he said it's 84 billion cubic meter. Egypt and Sudan monopolize, being 4% of it from the total 1,600. So this is a lie, because first of all, we said the maximum we have seen since 1871 is 113 billion cubic meter. So him saying it's totally 1,600, and out of it they are taking 85, which is 4% of that. No, it has never reached 1,600. What the maximum of it was 113, and still this 85 billion cubic meter reached the two countries. So basically, they are taking the maximum amount of this out of the 113 billion cubic meter. Okay, so now, on average, rainfall over the basin is about 2,109 billion cubic meter over the entire basin, while evapotranspiration is about 1,824 billion cubic meters. So that leaves about 285 billion cubic meters that is stored in rivers, in open waters, swamp and lakes, as well as groundwater. So if all this swamp, evaporation, and groundwater are wastage, and then what reaches is actually about 113 billion cubic meter, and out of it, 85 of it is to Egypt and Sudan. That's where it is going. So for El-Sisi to say it's 1,600, it's quite dangerous and misleading. So people should know this. The thing is that the evaporation also is due to, the dam, the Aswan High Dam that's built in Egypt. It is in a very hot, like it's the hottest place in the world. So evaporation, much of it is lost to evaporation, and in fact, it's called a dam. It's the wrong dam in the wrong place. This is why, let me tell you one, historical fact here, because I have done my own research as well. Why we call it the wrong dam in the wrong place, that is the Aswan High Dam. And what Ethiopia built now, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is the right dam in the right place, because it's on the highlands of Ethiopia, and those evaporations will not happen, and it will be able to store much of the water and then still sends it to Egypt. In fact, ever since the dam has started construction, there are more water reaching in every rainfall season to Egypt and Sudan. In fact, floods have been on a record both in Sudan and in Egypt. And we're not even talking about all the fertile soils that this water is taking. Anyway, on that wrong dam, on the wrong place, the British, when they were colonizing Egypt, before it was the British who built that dam. Now, before they built that, they have been knocking from 1902 to 1958 for like basically 50 years, knocking on the door of Ethiopia, asking those emperors. It was during Haile Selassie time, when before he became emperor and after he became emperor as well. 3 times they have knocked the door of Ethiopia, saying that they want to build a dam on Lake Tana, and they have their agriculture of cotton in Egypt, so they know the water will be more and much. They will have more guarantees that it will flow year to year, because much of the water can be saved what they lose to evaporation in that place. But Ethiopia has said no. You know why? Because once you put your steps, your foot in our territory, there is no guarantees that how you are going to live. So we are just for you to benefit our water there. We are not going to allow you to build the dam in Ethiopia. When we are capable to do so, we will build our dam. And eventually that's what Ethiopia did. And 2011 they have launched the construction of the dam has started, and now it's completed as we speak. In about a month's time or few weeks, Ethiopia is going to inaugurate that dam, after we have fought so much. The right dam in the right place is the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It's your dam that's doing the evaporation that you are losing water. So anyway, there are lots of things that I can say, but I have taken more time than what I expected. So let me just stop here. But there are several articles that I have written. You can check them out. Perhaps maybe I'll pin it in the comment section, and also videos and discussions, panel discussions. And a lot. So let us know in the comment section, what do you think of President Museveni's response to President El-Sisi, advising him what we need is for a solution to have a scientific approach. And then El-Sisi continued exaggerating, first of all, lying, and then also threatening. This is the usual thing. No Ethiopian is afraid of Egypt. I mean, you all know us historically. We have really, we have met Egypt on the battlefield, I think 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. And you all know what happened to that battle. So let alone on this economical battle, even militarily, you have seen what happened. History tells you so. So all this, crying and threatening Ethiopia, it's gonna fall on a deaf ear. Ethiopia is just doing its thing, and action speaks louder than words, and you're gonna see the result. And this is the way to go. Threats will not take us any further, and that's not the way to deal matters in this continent, in this 21st century. Well, let us know in the comment section, what do you think of this? It's a bye-bye from me, and thank you for watching as well. And I am really, really looking forward for your comments and inputs on this subject from all Africans globally. What do you think of this? Ciao, ciao for now. Bye.